Welcome to episode 2 of A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. I'm your host, Cheryne Blom, a life coach, author, and speaker. This podcast is here to remind you, midlife isn't a crisis. It's a climax. Each week, we'll explore how to break old patterns, build authentic confidence, and live with intention so you can thrive in this powerful new chapter of your life. Midlife isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about finally clearing the plate. And for many of us, the heaviest thing on that plate is people-pleasing. This is our topic for today. Let me ask you this. How many times have you said yes when every cell in your body was screaming no? And how many of those yeses left you drained, resentful, or even invisible in your own life? This episode is about breaking that cycle so you can live, love, and lead from authenticity, not obligation. Now, when we hear the phrase people-pleasing, many of us cringe. It carries shame, embarrassment, and that kind of ick factor. No one likes to be called a people pleaser. But here's how I see it. When we're people pleasing, we're other people focused. We've learned to put other people's needs ahead of our own because deep down, their acceptance and validation feels like survival. That's not empowerment. That's a nervous system response. And the truth? The very first step to becoming who you really are is breaking this outdated pattern. And that starts with learning how to be self-focused, which is not selfish. It's about saying yes without guilt, taking responsibility for your own well-being, speaking up even when your voice shakes, setting boundaries, and learning to communicate your needs in a clear, emotionally mature way. I want to share a piece of my own journey and the pattern of people-pleasing. My so-called midlife crisis actually started early, in my mid-30s, when I had what I now understand was an emotional breakdown. I was exhausted, depleted, and completely lost in myself. I want to actually read a passage from my book here because it clearly describes how I felt at that time. 8 years after our wedding day, I had molded myself into a position I could no longer tolerate. We had 2 children of our own, a family business, and my dream house. I also had scarred feet from walking on eggshells. All my energy went into trying not to cause another argument. My life felt more like a circus act than the blissful fairy tale of happily ever after. Each day, I would paint on a happy face and juggle my shoulds, musts, and have-tos. I must get dinner on. I have to go and do the pickup. I should really play with the kids more. I should have sex with him tonight. I had become a well-trained, performing people pleaser, putting everyone's needs over my own. That passage really explains it because after years of trying to hold everything together, I finally made a decision and I left. That decision led me into solitude. And in that sacred space of quiet and healing, I realized something that changed everything. My constant need for external validation and love was crippling me. When I looked deeper, I understood where it began. My father left when I was a child. His leaving shattered me and added to an already shaky sense of self. I told myself a story of abandonment and rejection, and without even knowing it, my people-pleasing persona was formed. And it was a survival strategy to keep me safe, to make sure I was never abandoned again. But here's the realization that set me free. No one was abandoning me. I was abandoning myself. Today, I'm so much more aware of my people-pleasing traits. Yes, they can still show up as a knee-jerk reaction, but now I notice them. I can check in with myself and ask, what's important to me here? When I catch myself peacekeeping or overgiving, I pause. I remind myself to love myself more than the need to be loved. I put boundaries in place. Sometimes that looks like protecting my time. Other times it means speaking up for myself with grace and confidence. And most importantly, I've learned to stop living for others and start living as myself. I take 100% responsibility for my empowerment and my well-being. Does that mean I ever slip up? Of course not. But when I notice the pattern at play, I quickly reset, returning to an empowered state rather than letting fear take control. That's what I want for you too. And here's what I want you to know. This isn't your fault. As children, pleasing often meant safety and acceptance and love. In our culture, especially for women in midlife, self-sacrifice has been praised. Now, it shows up as overcommitting at work or saying yes to family demands or avoiding conflict. But the silent cost, every time you abandon yourself for approval, you reinforce the belief that your needs don't matter. Think of it this way. People-pleasing is like watering everyone else's garden while your own plants wither. You end up nourishing everyone around you, but neglecting the soil of your own life. And over time, you're left feeling depleted, resentful, and disconnected from your own needs. People-pleasing actually doesn't show up the same for everyone. I do believe that most of us have shades of people-pleasing because of how we've been conditioned. But it shows up in different disguises. Which mask sounds like you? These are the people-pleaser personas that I've discovered. The first one is the good girl or the good boy. And the core belief is if I'm polite and never cause trouble, I'll be loved. And this impacts you because you shrink your voice to maintain harmony. And here's a powerful reframe for those that think they are the good girl or the good boy. I am allowed to take up space and speak my truth. The next persona is the fixer or the helper. And this core belief is if I solve everyone's problems, I'll be valued. And the impact is that you become overextended and disconnected from yourself. And the reframe here is that I can care without caring. I love that phrase. The next persona is the chameleon that has the core belief that if I blend in and adapt, I'll be accepted. And the impact to the chameleon is that you lose yourself trying to keep everyone else happy. And the chameleon can reframe this pattern by saying, I don't have to earn belonging by blending in. I'm safe to be me. The next persona is the achiever. And this core belief is if I perform and succeed, I'll be enough. The impact is you tie your worth to doing, not being. And you can reframe that by saying, I am worthy even when I rest. Not easy, but so important. The next is the people pleaser, which has the core belief that if I keep the peace, I'll be safe. And this impacts us because we silence our truth to avoid conflict. And a powerful reframe here is that our truth matters. We can speak up with love and still be safe. And the last persona I want to mention is the perfectionist that has the core belief, if I do everything perfectly, I'll be accepted. And the impact is that you live under pressure, afraid to fail. And a great reframe for this is that I release the need to be perfect. I am enough, even in progress. Here's a framework I teach. The ABC of breaking people pleasing. The A stands for awareness. Notice the pattern and ask yourself, am I saying yes for connection or out of fear of rejection? B stands for breathe. This allows you to stop and create what I call the power of the pause, to freeze time, to disrupt your pattern and calm your emotions. When you stop and breathe and you soothe those heightened emotions, you connect back to yourself. And the C stands for choice. You can choose a response that honors you. You can say things like, let me come back to you, or that doesn't work for me right now, or I'd love to support you in another way if you are trying to protect your time. And so when you have awareness, you can notice the pattern and you can pause before saying yes, disrupt the pattern. And you can practice saying no without guilt and making the choice to be authentic to you rather than just defaulting into your people-pleasing pattern. And every no to what drains you is a yes to what matters most. And so I want to leave you with a reflection question. Take a moment and ask yourself, where in your life are you saying yes when you really mean no? And what would it look like to reclaim that space with intention? And here's the reframe I want you to take away. People-pleasing isn't kindness. It's self-abandonment. True kindness includes you. And midlife isn't the time to shrink. It's the time to stand tall in your truth. And if this resonates, I've created something special for you. You can take my people-pleasing persona quiz to discover what persona you fall into and what you can do to step into authenticity. You can find the link to that quiz in the show notes of this episode. And if you love this episode, please remember to follow, subscribe, rate, and share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. Thanks for joining me on a new way to love, live, and lead. And remember, you're not too late, you're right on time, and your best chapter begins right now.